wanted to say hello. I don't want to say hello. I just want to bat my gums. I'm sitting, like most people, scrolling social media, ignoring my life, escaping into this tiny little box of nonsense on my phone. And all I'm seeing is how this pandemic is making mental health issues worse, or causing them, or adding just more stress to people. But still, in social media or online, you just still don't see the reality of what parenthood is, and especially what parenthood with a mental illness is like. And it really bugs me, clearly, because here I am sitting really uncomfortable, batting my gums into a phone. And I've got a real stick up my arse about it because in 2015 I gave birth to my daughter, and then shit just got wild, really wild. I suffered with postnatal depression for severely, I would say, for about 2 years, and then as I recovered for, I don't know, a few more years after that, and still 5.5 years later, I'm still dealing with the fallout or things that postnatal brought to the front, like, I don't know, insecurities. When I gave birth to my daughter, I didn't know postnatal depression was a thing, and I don't know if that's because I didn't read about it, if I ignored it, or people just don't say the reality of what parenthood is like. So, you hear mum say, oh, I lost my temper, or I lost my shit, or I screamed, or I shouted, or, you kind of see all that aspect of it, but you don't see the mum sitting rocking in front of the washing machine because she's just had so much and she can't take any more, sitting drowning at the sound of that screaming baby. You don't see, how relationships can fall apart, how you become a couple and then you have a child and you seem to go two separate ways. Not everyone, but quite a lot of people do. This is what happened to me. I became so distant, so recluse, and so, alone and lonely that it made me resent my partner. And I don't mean like resent as in, oh, he's not doing the washing up, I need to do the washing up. It's like a deep, deep rooted resentment that starts to go right at the core of your relationship, and it just takes it, snaps it, and builds something else in its place. Like nonsense, literally nonsense, mistrust, suspicion, like not believing anything they say, not believing that they're worthy of love. Like, it just sometimes just people don't necessarily talk about that side because it's hard to do and it's really intimate. And then people also believe that maybe they're the only ones this happens to. So when everyone in social media kind of post their happy pictures when they have their baby and they love their baby and they take the baby out a walk, or they go here, or they go there, or they pick pumpkins, or they have the best time of their life. And sure, a lot of people may be, but maybe not the whole time. And a lot of people, and it's not rightly or wrongly so, people can do and post as they please. Now, if someone just posts happy and positive, I'm not suggesting that they're not happy and positive. They may well be, but on the other hand, they may not be, and they want to be seen as this happy and positive, keeping up with all the other parents. Because when you open up to say that you're struggling, or you know what, I don't actually really like my baby. In fact, I think I might hate my baby. Not many people say that. Not many people go online and go, see this baby? Can I be dealing? Wish I never had it. Like, no one really goes online and says that because it's extremely vulnerable to do so, of course, and you're terrified that no one else feels the same. But I can pretty much almost guarantee that when it comes to parenthood and the thoughts that you have, like, this is hard, I wish I never done this, or I regret a choice, or I worry about my body, or I think I'm a bad mom, a bad dad, I think I'm failing, I can guarantee that someone's usually had this thought too. Parenthood is so hard. Like, you can't describe how hard it is until you're actually, doing it. I mean, you can describe it, but if someone had to describe to me that they didn't, feel a bond with their baby, I wouldn't necessarily have understood that until I had my baby. and lost the bond. Because when my daughter was born, I think from the onset of birth, I was very ill. Like I had postnatal depression. You know, it's almost like a birth the baby, burst mental illness, boof, dinner done. That's how it felt, because it was all so hazy and so fuzzy, and I didn't like my baby. I didn't love my baby. I didn't feel any connection to my baby, and she was like a chore. She was something that I just wanted to be done so I could put to the side, and I didn't need to deal with that. I just needed some space. I needed to be me. I needed to be alone. She was just like so overwhelming. And this has nothing to do with the baby. Let's make this clear. This has nothing to do with a good baby, bad baby, baby that sleeps, baby, you know, all that shite. It's got nothing to do with the baby. This is about the mum. This is about that person, that individual, how she's feeling. What really upsets me is to think that, like myself, 5 years ago, there's mothers currently at home, you know, with a newborn, probably, you know, I was really stressful when I had my daughter, because you do get that as, you know, some people get that as a new parent anyway. You're going to worry about everything about the baby. You're going to worry about if they're eating enough, drinking enough, pooing enough, peeing enough, putting on weight, how they sleep, and if they're getting enough sleep. And you know, you can become a bit manic. Like I was never out the doctors with this baby for rashes, for reflux, for thrush. Like it was just so stressful for me and my mental state. And it upsets me that we're in a pandemic, and that's an added layer of stress onto parenthood that no one needs. And there's mums and dads currently isolated, or I mean, you're isolated in parenthood anyway. It can feel so lonely, and you can feel like you're the only person with these issues, and you don't want to speak out, and you don't want to say that, you know, how you feel about your baby, or that you're struggling, or that you're really stressed, or that you constantly watch the clock and, you know, note down how long they nap, or you worry about naps, or, you know, just like it can just be so, you know, insane. It can just be so like overwhelming, that it upsets me to know that right at this moment there's a new mum out there who's struggling. There is a mum with a baby who's now 18 months old and she still doesn't love the baby. It hurts me to know that there's people out there that are really struggling and thinking that they're alone, that they don't realise that parenthood's hard. It's hard. I would say 99% of parents would relate to something that you're going to say. Like if you're going to say that you feel touched out, you feel noised out, like the noise stimulation drives me mad. Like I just want to go and put my head into a big black bag full of silence and just be alone. I don't want to chat sometimes. I don't want my kids near me. I don't want my partner near me. I just want to be left alone. And I think these things are normal and okay to say. You're a human. Like I don't understand why we think that mums and dads, I say mums because I'm a mum, and it's my journey in parenthood is motherhood. I'm not saying mental illness applies only to mothers. I just know it from my perspective as a mum. But when you come into parenthood and it's just you and this newborn baby, your partner goes to work or you're alone or whatever, if you're the sole person responsible for that child that day, that week and that month, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's hard. It's really hard to navigate and to look after yourself and to be kind and to not take everything in as something that you've done wrong or that you've done badly, or if the baby cries, it doesn't mean that you are a shit mum. It doesn't mean that you're a poor mum. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means babies cry. And they're going to cry sometimes and you're not going to know what to do. It doesn't mean anything. But people don't share that. People don't say that because we're always sold this image of mums are mumsy and they can stop all hurts and aches and pains. But that's not true. And it shouldn't be true if it's been detrimental to your health and how you feel. So almost like when you become, and it is actually when you become a mum or a parent, that your whole, who you are here and like before baby just gets papped in the bin. And what comes is like, for me it was a robot that just did everything this baby wanted and just, you know, made sure my daughter thrived, and she's still here today. She's good, she's doing all right. Like, she got everything from me, but I just disintegrated. You know, there was nothing there of me other than mental illness, postnatal depression. You're so far removed. You look in the mirror and you're just like, who is that bag of dicks looking back? Because I don't recognise her. You know, you're so preoccupied and so concerned with keeping this other little human alive that you forget to look after yourself, and you forget that you don't want to look after yourself. Sometimes you don't actually care how you're answering the door or what you're wearing or how you're looking, clearly. You just, and this is a major thing, like, to change from who you thought you are to then have a kid and change to someone else, and to get lost in that transition is really intense, and we don't talk about it enough. Like, we don't talk about how can you be lost in yourself. It's really hard to understand unless you go through it, and when you're going through it, it's really hard to chat about it or to speak about it, or to maybe say you don't like it. I, for one, said that I hated motherhood. My daughter was about 2 or 3. To be fair, she was an absolute nugget at 3. She was really hard. She was really mean. She was really mean, and I've got the video evidence, so she can get. No, she was mean. She was mean. I'm not having it. She was mean. So I didn't like motherhood for a long time, and it's okay to say that, but it doesn't mean anything to do with my kids. It doesn't mean anything to do with my daughter. I mean, she did say she hated me, so it's a wee bit to do with her, but it doesn't mean like I don't like the act of being a mum. Does it mean I don't like my kid? You know, like, she's still going to thrive, and I'll look after her and I love her. But you know, sometimes I can get a wee bit of hit or miss doing all the motherly stuff. My heart goes out to mums and dads in this pandemic, and it's always going out to mums and dads. As soon as I became a mum and I went through my journey of motherhood and postnatal depression, verging on psychosis, and when I came out, or when I was climbing out, and I was like, it doesn't need to be like this. It doesn't need to be like this. I don't need to feel upset and sad. I don't need to feel alone. I don't need to feel like I'm the only person, or I'm a bad mum, or I'm not doing enough, or I don't need to feel this crushing weight of society telling me that I'm not motherly enough or maternal, or that I should love it and I should lap up every moment and enjoy it. It passes quick and fucking yeah. You don't need to feel like that, because parenthood is hard and it is shit and it is a life-changing experience. Yes, it's good, and yes, I would say a lot of us would do it all over again. Some of us wouldn't, and that's fine. Some people do generally regret having children, and that's fine. Like, we need to understand and accept all of these. Children are not the be all and end all of life. I don't know why we put having children and children's welfare on a pedestal so much. It is bizarre, that to the point where women kill themselves. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, women go insane. And I say insane because, you know, I'm joking, but they do. Some people completely lose touch with reality and believe they're dead, or believe they were never here, or believe that they're not a good enough mum, or, you know, there's things that happen that just don't need to happen. There's just no need for it to be so hard. And one of the reasons it is so hard is because people don't chat about it, they don't talk about it, they don't say things that no one else says. And it's extremely hard to be the person that stands up and says, I hated my baby, I screamed at my baby, I screamed at my toddler, I tried to kick my partner out numerous times, I thought my partner was having an affair with an imaginary woman, I tested friendships on the daily. Yep. It's really hard to put your hands up and say, I've said things to my partner that no partner should ever hear. I have told him I don't love him. That I'm not in love with them after, what was that, 13 years of relationship. I've told them to leave because I'm a toxic mother, because I thought that I would pass on my illness to my kid, or I would, talk to her in such a way that I would scar her for life, or that I would damage her in some kind of way. I felt like the only way to to keep my family safe was for me to leave. And then if that meant suicide, then so be it. But there's no need for any of this, because it's not normal. Because when we're talking about suicide and resentment and overwhelm, there's an element of those that go beyond normal into illness, and we need to understand that. But it's very common. More people than you think feel like this. More people than you think are struggling with parenthood. Are not struggling. I don't really like the term struggling, because it's hard. And to say that you're struggling would mean that you're not doing good enough, or, as good as someone else. And that in itself is damaging and isolating, and makes you feel alone, and makes you feel crap, and that you're not like the other mum that's got all the ironing done, and all the toys are in nice sections, and got the life together, giving them the nice meat and the veg, and really looking after her kids. Meanwhile, you couldn't tell where the leg were, and they'll be getting a beige dinner again tonight. It's not a comparison, because everyone has their thing. Everyone has something that they think, or that they beat themselves up with, or that makes them feel less than when compared to others. Especially in parenthood, it is drummed into parents that we need to be the best, that we need to have sensory play, that we need to have breast milk, that we need to have organic food, that we need to, oh God, meet all these development milestones. And if that means that you go for 75 nature walks in a week, then you go to the 75 nature walks in the week. We've got everything from cognitive ability to baby swimming to it's just like a bombardment of stuff that you need to do and that you need to fulfill to have this amazing child. It's insane. It's constant, and sometimes you just want to scream. It's too much. There's too much bombardment and not enough of the reality of just saying parenthood's really hard. Parents don't just become these immune robots when they have a child. They don't just become these beings with no internal stressors, or they don't just become emotionally intelligent overnight and know how to handle their own emotions. We're going to do things wrong. We're going to snap. We're going to scream. We're going to shout. We're going to say things that we wish we'd never said. We're going to possibly harm our children. We're going to scream at them. We're going to do something that when they're older, they're going to remember. What I just want to say is that if you're a parent and you're struggling, then put the term struggling in the bin, because you're a parent. It's hard, it's brutal, at times it's really shit, but it's okay. It's okay to feel like this. It's kind of normal to feel like this. It's really hard. No one can prepare you for how hard it is. No one can prepare you for sleep deprivation. Well, I mean, you could practice the art of torture for a year before you have the baby, but you're probably pregnant in that time, so I wouldn't advise it. No one prepares you for the mental toll that's going to come with it, and the mental load and the overwhelm, and just the overwhelmed responsibility of having a child. It's a lot. So if you feel like you're not up to the standard, or you feel like you're failing in some kind of way, then just know that that's utter shite. That's lies. This is really hard. You're not, more than likely, you're not going to give birth and immediately love this baby. I feel like sometimes, yes, that happens. I have been the mum where I've hated my baby, and I've been the mum where I gave birth and loved my baby. So I know the two sides of the story. I can see both ways. And I used to hate when people said it was love at first sight, because I thought it was a lie, and I thought that was never possible, and we should stop making women feel that way. But then I had my second, and that's exactly how I felt, which then brings me pain back to my first, because I could have loved her. I could have, but I didn't, and that was my ticket into parenthood. I didn't have the ability to love her. And that's okay, and that's fine, and we shouldn't need or feel that we should love these tiny little bundles of slime straight away, because sometimes it's not always appropriate, it's not always going to happen, it's not a fairy tale, you know. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just not, and it's okay to say that you didn't love your baby or there was no connection. It doesn't mean that you're a bad mum or that you're unloving or not maternal. I hate that word, maternal. We should get it right in the bin. I just wish we could live in a place where people were more honest. I understand why people don't tell the truth or reality sometimes. I understand it's so hard to be vulnerable or to be at the point where you think you can say something out loud. But I wish we did. I wish more people would say what their reality was, or, you know, how they struggle with their temper or their rage, or that they don't like their newborn baby. I personally don't want any more children because I really don't like newborns. Parenthood is really hard, but what matters is that we speak that it's hard, that we let other people know that we think it's hard, that we don't just think it's all fuzzy, warm photo shoots of newborns looking like Cabbage Patch dolls. Think about the women that took her life when her baby was 6 weeks old and left behind her husband. Let's think about that, and then think, maybe we should just say what it's really like. Maybe we should just say how hard it is. Maybe we should just say that it doesn't need to be this hard, that everyone has things that they internalise and think that they're a poor mum or they're toxic or they're better off not being here. But when someone else says something like that, you go, well, no, you're not. You're not a monster of a mum. This is hard. It makes you feel like a monster, but you're not. And here's why you're not. I just wish we could be more honest with each other and stop the hurt and stress and strain that comes with being a mum and being a parent. I just want people to know that if you feel like you're struggling with parenthood, or that you're having a hard time, or that you wish you'd never done it, or, you know, there's a multiple things that people could be thinking, that it's destroy your relationship, or you resent your partner, you don't speak to your partner, then you're not alone, and you don't have to feel like you're alone. Because parenthood is really shit, just people don't see it sometimes.